Question. What is the fastest way to replicate domain controllers in a virtualized environment? Answer. Cloning. Feedback. Cloning is the fastest way to deploy multiple computers with identical configurations, especially when those computers run in a virtualized environment such as Hyper-V. Cloning copies the virtual hard disks of the computers and changes minor configurations such as computer names and IP addresses to be unique. Then the computers are immediately operational. Question. What are the two major considerations for deploying domain controllers to Azure? Answer. The two major considerations are rollback and virtual machine limitations. Rollback. Rolling back an ADDS system can create duplicate update sequence numbers, USNs. Because domain controller replication depends on USNs, duplicate numbers can cause problems. To prevent this, Windows Server 2016 Active Directory Domain Services has an identifier named VM Generation ID, that can detect a rollback. It prevents the virtualized domain controller from replicating changes outbound until the virtualized ADDS has converged with the other domain controllers in the domain. Virtual machine limitations. Azure virtual machines are limited to 14 GB of random access memory, RAM, and one network adapter. Also, there is no support for checkpoint feature. Lesson overview. Sometimes you need to install additional domain controllers in your Windows Server 2016 domain for reasons such as you need additional resources at a site because the existing domain controllers are overworked. You are opening a new remote office that requires you to deploy one or more domain controllers. You are creating an off-site disaster recovery location. This lesson examines several ways to install additional domain controllers. The installation method that you use varies with the circumstances. Methods include installing ADDS on a local computer and on a remote server by using Server Manager, installing ADDS on a server core installation, and installing ADDS by using a snapshot of the ADDS database stored on removable media. This lesson also examines how to upgrade a domain controller from an earlier Windows operating system to Windows Server 2016. Finally, the lesson explains Azure AD and how to install a domain controller in Azure. Objectives. After completing this lesson, you should be able to explain how to install a domain controller by using the GUI. Explain how to install a domain controller on a server core installation of Windows Server 2016. Explain how to upgrade a domain controller by installing from media. Explain how to install a domain controller by installing from media. Describe the process of cloning domain controllers. Explain best practices for virtualizing domain controllers.